When it comes to fishing lines, there are two main types of fishing lines. You've got your braid lines and then your mono lines. I see a lot of people stuck when it comes to choosing which line is most suitable for them. So hopefully in this video I can address that and give you guys some clarity when it comes to choosing your next fishing line. First, I just wanted to show the difference between braids and monos and when to choose braid over mono or mono over braid. So to illustrate this 15-pound mono, very good quality, but if you look at the diameter, it's 0.355 millimeters. If you compare that to a 15-pound braid with a diameter of 0.19 millimeters, it's almost half the thickness. And then some braids are even thinner. So this braid is also 15-pound, but it has a diameter of 0.16 millimeters. So what difference does this actually make? If your braid is half the diameter of your mono, you get a way better cast when you're casting, but you're sacrificing abrasion. Mono is more abrasion resistant than braid. If you're bait fishing, mono will get the job done. You can just use a heavy enough weight or sinker to keep your line tensioned and avoid all sorts of tangles. Whereas with a braid, because it's much thinner, it needs much less weight for you to maintain that tension and avoid tangles and wind knots and that sort of thing. But if you're fishing lures, monos are not suitable at all. Because they're so thick, you need a lot more weight to be able to get a good cast on your lure. Whereas because the braid is so much thinner, you can get a much better cast with a much lighter lure than what you would be able to with a mono line. So once you've decided what type of fishing you're doing, if you're just fishing with bait, mono is not a problem at all. But if you're fishing with lures, you really should be using a braid line. Doesn't need to be anything fancy, but it's significantly thinner than mono lines. So how this actually translates in the real world, let's say, for example, you've got a 5,000 size reel and you're trying to decide which line to put on this reel. If you look at the spool, the manufacturers give you the diameter of the lines that they recommend you use on this reel. So for example, if you were to use a mono line, this reel can fit 175 meters of a mono with a diameter of 0.35 millimeters. So if you were going to put this mono on this reel, it would fit about half the spool because these are 300 meter spool. Whereas if you were to use a braid line, the capacity of this reel is 300 meters of a PE2 line. Now, the PE rating is a measurement system that braid manufacturers use. Yes, they're both 15-pound, but this braid is PE2 and this braid is PE 1.2. So this braid is significantly thinner. If you were to use this braid, you'll be able to fit the whole 300 meters on this reel. Whereas if you were to use this braid, because it's PE 1.2, so it's thinner than what the manufacturer recommends for this reel, you would have to add some backing to make sure once you add the line, the reel isn't short. If you spool your reel and the line doesn't come up to the edge of the lip where it starts to curve, when you cast, you get a lot more friction against the edge of the spool, which reduces your casting distance drastically depending how short the spool is. Whereas if you're using a smaller reel, if you check the line capacity on this reel, the manufacturer recommends a diameter of 0.25 millimeters if you want to fit about 150 meters worth of line. So if you were to put this braid with a diameter of 0.16 millimeters, you should take the whole 300 meters. This braid would only fit maybe 200 meters due to its diameter. One thing that's worth keeping in mind is the brand of reel. So for example, a Shimano reel, when it comes to the line information on the spool, that's based on you using a Shimano line. Whereas a Daiwa reel, the line information on its spool would be based on using a Daiwa line. Each reel manufacturer normally places the line specifications of their own lines on their reels to encourage you to buy their lines alongside their reels. Another mistake a lot of people make when they're buying their lines, they buy based on the breaking strain rather than buying based on diameter. This generally can cause you a lot of grief because there's massive differences in diameter between lines. So for example, this 50-pound braid has a diameter of 0.36 millimeters, whereas this 60-pound braid has a diameter of 0.23 millimeters. So this braid is significantly thinner than this braid, even though it's rated at a higher breaking strain. That's why it's really important to check the line diameter before you choose your braid and make sure that it actually suits your reel. Otherwise, you can end up either overspooling, which will cause tangles and wind knots when you cast, or underspooling, which causes the line to rub against the edge of the spool when you cast, reducing momentum and also reducing your casting distance. Now, manufacturers do try to simplify this. So for example, this 5000 size Shimano reel will fit 300 meters of a PE2 braid, whereas this 6000 size Shimano reel will fit 300 meters of a PE3 braid. This 8000 size reel will fit 300 meters of a PE4 diameter braid, and this 10,000 size reel will fit 300 meters of a PE5 diameter braid. Now this does vary from brand to brand, and you need to be sure to check the diameter of the line on the spool as well as of the line you're choosing for that reel to make sure you end up with a perfect spool. Now when it comes to monofilament lines, these also vary in diameter. For example, this 10-pound Shimano line has a diameter of 0.27 millimeters, whereas this Daiwa line, also 10-pound, has a diameter of 0.278 millimeters. This Sunline monofilament has a diameter of 0.23 millimeters. So there's a pretty big difference between these two monofilaments when it comes to diameter. So if you don't check the spool of your reel before choosing your line, you run into the same issue where either you won't end up filling the reel to the edge of the spool, or you end up not being able to fit the whole spool on the reel. As long as you check your reel and choose a matching diameter line, you should end up with a perfectly spooled reel. And that'll help you avoid unnecessary tangles and wind knots and all the other headaches that come with an underspooled or overspooled reel. I hope this video helps, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.